I will make $200,000 playing poker this year, and I'm gonna vlog all the important parts of it. Guys, I just played 2 pretty sick sessions the past couple of days. The action just gets better and better as the game goes along. Take a look.
We get in the mix on a Wednesday afternoon, buying for $1,000. Let's run that stack up. The first hour or so isn't too exciting, but then we pick up ace king suited on the button. There's a raise to 20, a call. I make it 80, and both of those players call to 80. So we're going 3 ways to a flop, which isn't that great. 6, 4, 3 rainbow. When action checks to me, I think this is a good one to check back. Turn pairs the board with the 4 of clubs, brings in a backdoor flush draw 2. The first player, who is the original raiser, bets out 150. Other player gets out of the way, and well, I think ace king could be good here a decent amount of the time. Also, my ace and king should be live virtually always. I make the call in position, and the river is not a good one. It's the queen of clubs, so that flush comes in there. Maybe some airball bluffs from him pick up a queen as well. I'm certain I'm holding the loser, but when he quickly checks, I know what I have to do. I don't love it, but we have to bluff. Me having a flush makes a ton of sense. Also, I could have maybe checked back aces or kings, even queens on the flop, so I settle on a size of 385, and he goes into a long tank. I've said this before, but in these kinds of situations, I just yell call, call, call in my head, trying to convince my body that I am value betting and maybe he'll pick up on that. It's a little trick I heard from a high stakes pro one time, and I've just done it ever since. And this guy seems to be battling between calling and folding several times. He's counting up the chips for a call, then puts them back, does it again, puts them back, and finally he makes the fold. So we get one through to start us off. Then we pick up jack 9 suited in the low jack. I raise to 20, and the big blind goes to 80. I don't love my hand, but I do like it, so it's our turn to call the $80 3 bet, and we flop a gutter and a backdoor flush draw. I'll call a small bet here, but he decides to check. And on this board, I think he's gonna check raise a decent amount of the time, and his hand is almost definitely stronger than mine, so I just check it back. And we turn a pair, but it does bring in that flush. Also, my gutter is kind of useless now because a queen gives him a better straight with any ace. It's really hard for me to improve, and he's got so many hands that beat mine, so when he bets $75, I'm just gonna get out of the way. And we get a hand that I secretly do love. It's 3 deuce suited in the big blind. There's a raise to 15 from early position. A player calls, and with a suited connector, even if it's the worst one, I'm definitely going to call for this price, closing the action, and we flop a straight draw. There's a flush draw out there too, so my hand's not super strong. I check, the original raiser checks. Now the cutoff puts in a bet for 25. I call, and early position gets out of the way. Turns to jack of hearts, so that flush comes in. If he puts in a bet, I'm definitely gonna fold, but he checks it back this time, and we see a board pairing 4 on the river. Here's a little super pro tip. You can't check over 3 high. Whatever the worst hands you end up on the river with, you kind of have to bluff. And this is definitely the worst hand, not only that I could have, but it's also the worst hand possible in this situation. I bet $85, and he ends up making the fold, so we get one through with 3 high. Always feels good when that happens, which seems to happen more often than it probably should for me. Now we play king queen off. I raise to 20. 2 players call, so we're going 3 ways to a flop. That's 8-8-5 rainbow. Big blind checks, and I should probably go for a small c bet here, but I check, and the button checks it back. Turn is probably the best one in the deck. It's the queen of diamonds. After the big blind checks, let's go for value. I bet about half pot, $30. And now the button, after checking back originally, is gonna put in a raise. He makes it $115, and well, I don't love it, but we do have a pretty good hand here, so I make the call, and the river comes to 6 of hearts. A couple of his straight draws get there. I think his main bluff would be 7-6, which picks up a pair and will probably check back, which makes it all the more concerning that after I check, he puts out a big bet, $420, an over bet to say the least. And well, I'm not gonna have too many stronger hands in this situation, but for this size, I doubt he's bluffing. I'm pretty sure he checked back the flop with a monster, hoping the turn would hit one of us, and it definitely hit me. This is the same guy I bluffed, but I don't think he's bluffing me back, so I make the fold. There's been a lot of bluffing so far, but that won't be the case here. We've got aces in the best position possible, the big blind. There's a limp, a raise to 15, 2 callers. I make it 90, which apparently is nowhere near enough because all 4 players that put money in the pot so far call the 90. So we're going 5 ways to a flop. Not the best situation with aces, but let's see if they hold. Comes out 5-5 deuce rainbow. Well, unless they have a 5 or pocket deuces, we are way ahead. So I continue betting 135 and I'm pretty happy with the result. Only one player makes the call. It's the same guy from the last hand as well as the first hand. Happy to get it heads up going into the turn, which comes a 4. At this point, if he's got me, he's got me. I bet 350 sizing up for a river jam and he goes into a long tank. I think he's got some kind of middling pocket pair anywhere from 6s to 10s. Definitely reasonable for him to call me down, but he makes a good decision. He folds. From aces to 8-5 suited, quite a downgrade, and I've got it in the low jack. I raise it up to 20, which I know is pretty borderline. Actually, it's not even borderline, it's just out there. The player after me calls, then the cutoff makes it 80, gets back around to me, and well, I just don't buy this. I've been raising quite a bit, and I think he's doing this light. This year, I've decided just always go with your gut instinct, and my gut instinct is to 4-bet. This is probably one of the worst hands you could do that with, but I'm just gonna go with it, man, because I trust my gut. I'm gonna go with it every single time this year. I make it $240. The guy sandwiched in between us folds, and the 3-better, after thinking for just a little bit, makes the fold as well. So we get another one through. End up racking up after a few hours of play. Made a decent chunk of change without hitting very many good hands. So that's always nice, but just buckle up because the Thursday session gets wild. Just like yesterday, I buy in for $1,000, and again, the goal is run that stack up. And that goal seems very achievable when I pick up pocket kings about 20 minutes into the session. If you watched my last vlog, you might remember I got kings literally the first hand I was dealt and doubled up right there after getting it all in pre-flop. And guys, I raise it up, get 3-bet by the low jack. If I'm gonna 4-bet 8-5 suited, I'm gonna 4-bet pocket kings also. I make it 225. He thinks about it for a little bit and decides to go all in. As I've said before, I've never folded pocket kings pre-flop in my life. Certainly not gonna do it here. I call. We're going one time. Let's see the run out.
Thomas for chicken yellow.
Okay, well, that sucks a lot. Got it in as what, 72% favorite, I think? And instead of doubling up like last time, I get felted. Sucks a lot to start out this way, but we're down, not out. I rebuy, we go again. Folds to me on the button. I'm looking down at king 10. I raise it up. Big blind defend. Same guy from last hand. Let's get some revenge. The flop is ace jack 5 with 2 diamonds. I do have the king of diamonds. So even though we didn't flop super strong for our hand, we're definitely going to be blasting. I see bet 25. He raises to 55. For this size, I'm definitely not going to fold. I consider re-raising, but I decide to just call in position. Turns an offsuit 6, super inconsequential, and now he slows down and checks. I think he could have a draw. He could have some kind of ace that he was trying to protect on the flop. I'm going to put some pressure on him. I go 115, and well, he's going to put more pressure right back on me. He makes a pretty big jam. And well, I guess he outplayed me here, or maybe he just has it. Either way, I can't call with king high. I gotta fold. Things aren't going our way so far, but that could all change with a bomb pot. We're looking at queen 6-6-3, which isn't the best starting hand, but we do flop a straight on one board, as well as nothing at all on the second one. I'll probably fold if somebody puts in a sizable bet here, but instead action checks all the way around. Turns are pretty good. It's an offsuit 9 on the first one and a 6 on the bottom board, so we've got bottom set over there. The big blind pots it to 120, a player calls, and I've got something on both boards. One of them is probably good right now. I make the call and we're 3 ways going into some rivers. 9 of diamonds up top, ace of diamonds down below. I wish those two were switched. It would make my hand way better, but we've got to deal with what we've got, and what we've got is the big blind potting it again, 480. If the player in between us makes the call, I'm definitely gonna fold, but he makes the fold, and yeah, Tough spot. I definitely don't win both boards. And a general rule is that you probably shouldn't call for chops in these bomb pots, but it is unlikely that I'm getting scooped. So I end up making the call and well, we get scooped. He rolls over 10, 9, 8, 5. So he rivered a full house on us up top to beat our straight, and we didn't fill up down below to beat his straight. Pretty unlucky, but I think I could get away on the river, and that is why I've decided to put a note on my mirror telling me do not call for chops in bomb pots, so that every morning when I wake up, I get a reminder of not just this hand, but all the other hands I've lost doing the same thing. Alright, we're down, but far from out. We get ace queen in middle position. I raise it up and get 2 callers. So we're going 3 ways to a flop that, again, doesn't hit us, but could hit our range. King, 8, 4, 2 spades. I think I can pick it up right here a lot of the time on the flop. So I bet $30. And of course, both of them make the call. So still 3 ways, and we pick up some equity with the 10 of diamonds. Not a lot of equity, mind you, but I'm going to commit to the bit. I bet 125, but again, the hijack does not want to get out of the way. This is the guy that's been beating up on me all day. He calls, the big blind folds, down to heads up, and the river is very weird. Jack of spades. So we get there, but it's possible that he got there too, right? We beat everything but flushes, and I'm gonna go into bet fold mode. My hand's way too strong to check over. I'm gonna value bet, and if he raises me, I'm gonna give him credit for a flush. I make it $250. He goes into a long tank, but eventually makes a good decision. He folds. Lots of folding going on rivers today from both sides, right? It was nice to finally win one, and we get an even better hand the next orbit. Ace king. I raise it up, the usual suspect calls, and then the player in the 1 seat is gonna 3-bet to $80. Now, we're all pretty deep, and I'm reading this 3-bet as strong, like potentially stronger than ace king. So I'm just gonna make the call here, play a little bit disguised. Other player calls too, so we're 3 ways going into a flop. Queen, jack, 9. So we've got 2 overs, not sure how live they are, as well as 4 outs to the absolute nuts. So when action checks over to the 3-better, he bets $100. Not gonna raise, not gonna fold. I make the call, other player gets out of the way, and the turn comes a 4. Not what we were looking for. I check again, he bets again, pretty big, 350, and well, with just ace high, I'm gonna continue the trend of ending hands on fold. Then it's another offsuit ace, but this one's not quite as strong. Ace 8 in the big blind. There's a raise of 15, a call. For this price, I'll defend most things. I call. We flop an ace, which is the first time that's happened. The original raiser continues for $20. Button gets out of the way, and I'm gonna make the call. Turns the queen of hearts, brings in a flush draw, and he now overbets. He continues for 125. When he does this, it's pretty polarizing, right? He either has a super strong hand or some kind of big draw. And with an ace in my hand, I don't think I can let it go just yet. I make the call. Final card's the 3 of clubs, so any deuce, which I doubt he has, beats me. More importantly, 6-7 gets there. I check, hoping for a check back, but he bets again, 175. So he bet small, bet huge. Now he bets medium. I think the way I played my hand, it's really unlikely that I have some kind of draw, unless it's like a pair and a flush draw situation on the turn. So he knows I have some kind of value, and this just looks milky, man. This bet screams value to me, so again, I'm gonna have to end the hand with another fold. Then we get a gorgeous queen jack of hearts in the small blind. The straddle is on and it folds all the way around to me. I raise it up to $35 and the straddler defends. Now this is the same guy once again that we've been battling with all day. Flop comes out ace 7 6 1 heart. I should probably just c-bet normally, but I decided to check with the intentions of a check raise that do not come to fruition as he checks back. Turns a deuce, brings in a backdoor flush draw. I think he's gonna have like a 6, a 7, some kind of draw most of the time. So I bet out $50, which he called. Final card's a 10, 8, 9 gets there, maybe some kind of 2 pairs. I didn't get to check raise on the flop, so I'm gonna make up for it now. I bet 175 right at the pot, and he tanks for a while before making another great decision. He makes the call and turns over 5 deuce offsuit. This guy is killing me. I am stuck $2,000. This is just the opposite of how I wanted this day to go, but you can see there's still a lot more time left in the video. Let's see what happens. And what happens is we turn trips on the button, but we gotta watch out for that flush. We went 5 ways to a flop, and now a player who limped originally is gonna bet out $75. I'm the only one who calls. Would be nice to boat up, give us some reassurance, but nope. 4 of hearts. He bets 300, and is he doing this with worse for value? I doubt it. And is he bluffing? I kind of also doubt that too. So I'm just gonna fold the trips. I show a 3. He's nice enough to show us king 9 of diamonds. So another hand that ends with a fold, but at least it's a good one, and I'm just getting crushed. Can't get anything to go my way. I'm gonna take a seat change over to the middle of the table. Maybe that'll turn my luck. And after a series of some more losses, I am down over 2.5K, guys. But maybe that can change right here with a little mystery hand. I don't show the cards to the camera initially, but that doesn't mean there's not a lot of action going on. The hijack, same player from the last hand, raises to 25. The small blind raises to 100. He seems like a good aggressive player, so this could be a lot of things. Definitely gonna put in the cold 4. I go 260. Planning to call a jam from the small blind, but what about a jam from the hijack? He goes all in. And my initial reaction is to fold to this action. But when the small blind goes deep into the tank, I think about my decision more too. The situation is call 970 more, putting the rest of my stack in to win back 2.5K. So if I have 40% equity, for example, it's a profitable call. If I don't, it's not. So obviously if he has aces or kings, I'm crushed. But if he has queens, jacks, maybe 10s, a different ace king, I do have the equity to call. So once the small blind tank folds, I decide to go with my hand. We agree to run it twice and check out these runouts.
Twice.
Twice it is.
How big?
Not very. I don't have a pair.
This is first.
Ace king.
Ace king. Oh god. Nice. It's the same hand.
Yeah, I thought that.
11, 12, 30.
How much? How do you hit ace and king on 2 boards?
Yeah, that's actually insane. Okay, that was insanely lucky. And what's more is the small blind folded ace king. He had the exact same hand as me, which meant I only had 4 outs, and I managed to hit 1 of them on both runouts. Definitely really fortunate, but I'd say I was due for something like this to happen. We finally have some momentum. Maybe we can get everything back. Moving on to ace jack in the cutoff, a good player named Ryan raises to 25 over a straddle. Could call or 3-bet here, but I'm feeling aggro. I'm stuck. Let's go get it. I make it 85 and he makes the call. Flop's a good one, but very dangerous. Jack 8, 7, 2 spades. He checks. I'll bet about half pot, 85 again. Don't want to see a raise, and we don't. He makes the call. Turn gives us 2 pair, but it is the ace of spades, so flush comes in. Still, when he checks, gonna go for more value. I make it 210. Again, hoping to see a call, not a raise, and we get what we want. He calls. Final card's the queen of diamonds. He checks, and well, do we go for more value? I don't think I'd have a ton of bluffs at this point, and he could have me beat anyways, so I'm not gonna go for more value. I check it back, and he turns over ace 10 suited. Very nice pickup. We are trending in the right direction, finally. Hey, quick break in the action to announce the winner of last week's giveaway. Remember, I made $3,000 in a day and decided to give away a third of that to a subscriber. So let's take a look. Okay, so it looks like there's over 700 comments. Thank you to everybody who entered. I still haven't finished reading all of these, but a lot of them are really nice and also funny. So thank you for that. And I'm just gonna do it randomly. So anything goes. Don't allow duplicates, so anybody who made multiple comments will just be entered once. One time. Here we go. Also, I'll probably do this again sometime. I just got to make some money first. All right, let's see. So 705 non-duplicate entries. Mr. Alexander Lee, 7941. My favorite hand was the Queen 4 suited hand because I just won a big pot with the exact same hand recently. That's pretty funny because that's tough to do. Okay, 1 second. So I maybe didn't plan this the best because you can't message on YouTube. I remember as a kid you could, and yeah, you definitely can't now. So Mr. Alexander Lee please DM me on Instagram. I'll just have you prove that you are who you say you are, and I'll get you paid ASAP, and I'll post a confirmation on there as well. By the way, I'm gonna be posting a lot to Instagram this year. If you want more like funny content, or you just want to keep up with like more day-to-day stuff, like different sessions that I play that aren't gonna be on the vlog, feel free to follow me there. Now, let's get back to the action. King 9 of spades in the small blind. There's a raise to 25 in early position. Again, could go either way, but I'm feeling very aggro. I make it 100 and he makes the call. Flop's pretty interesting. King, queen 10, rainbow. With ace king, I'd probably c-bet. King jack, probably c-bet. This one, a little bit too weak. I check and he checks it back. Turns got me way more comfortable. King of diamonds. I bet 75, pretty small. He makes the call. River's great, 7 of clubs. Let's try to get called by a queen or a 10. I bet 285, but he fairly quickly makes the fold. And now I have the unfortunate honor to welcome you back to the KDog Punt Corner. Now, before you hear what I do next, I was away from the table for a little bit, so I've got to post back in. So I'm already in for $5. That's why when under the gun raises to 15, a player calls, I'm pretty priced in position with a suited hand for just $10 more. So I make the call. Big blind calls too. So we're 4 ways into a flop where we flop a backdoor flush draw and bottom pair. Action's gonna check to the low jack, same guy that we beat with ace king against queens. He bets 50, and I think I have just enough, especially with that backdoor straight draw, to continue in position. Big blind and under the gun call too. Wasn't planning for that. Not as comfortable. Still 4 ways to the 8 of diamonds. So now we've got the open ender to go along with the 3. Didn't turn a heart. Would have been much nicer if it was the 8 of hearts. Again, action checks to the low jack, who bets $100, which is pretty small compared to the pot now. I sense some weakness. Let's go for it. It is the KDog Punt Corner after all. I make it 325, trying to rep queen 10. But then the big blind cold calls, and this is setting alarm bells off in my head. Either he has a very strong draw, or he's already there with a straight, playing it tricky. To even more surprise, the low jack calls too, so somehow we're 3 ways with a lot of money in the pot. Maybe we can get bailed out by the river, but nope, it's the ace of hearts. Big blind thinks for a while, then checks. Low jack checks, and again, man, I am worried about that big blind. I think he's really strong, so I'm gonna give this up, check it back, and it turns out I was totally wrong. The big blind was on a draw, and the low jack's gonna take the pot with 9-3 suited. Pretty crazy hand, a couple of punts from me, arguably on every street, including the last one where I didn't fire, which turned out to be a punt in itself. But hey, that's poker. Even with that blunder, we're still inching closer and closer to getting even, so it's a great time to pick up aces on the button. Unfortunately, it folds all the way around to me. I go 30 over a straddle, and the big blind call. King 9 deuce are the first 3 cards we see. Pretty great board for us. I see bet 25. He calls. Turns a 10, not my favorite card, but of course, gonna keep going for value. I make it 85, and again, he calls. River's an offsuit 4, really great card. Let's get 3 streets of value this time. I go 185, and he tanks for a while and ends up making the call. We're good. Back on the button a couple orbits later, this time with ace 6 of spades. A European player in the cutoff raises to 30 over a limp, and this year I've decided to give Euros a taste of their own medicine. I'm gonna be 3-betting them like an animal, see how they like it. I raised $100 and he makes the call. Flop's a pretty wet one without hitting us, so bad for me, good for the range. What's new? I see bet 65 and he makes the call. Turn's pretty inconsequential, doesn't give us any backdoor equity. Still, when he checks, I'm gonna go for it. I bet 215 and he tanks for quite a while. Not sure if he's gonna call, fold, or raise, but eventually he folds. Good to get another one through, and we are just $300 away from being even after that nightmare start. Then we pick up ace jack again, this time in the small blind, and this time 3 players limp to meet. My hand's too strong to not raise. I go 35, and each of the limpers calls, so we're 4 ways going into a great flop. Jack, jack 5, 2 hearts. I'm gonna bet small on this paired board, 35 again, and only the player in seat 9 makes the call. Turn is exactly what I didn't want. The flush comes in. Still with trips, ace kicker, I'm gonna go for value, bet small again, $80, and after thinking for a little bit, he folds and shows a jack, which might be the greatest fold I've seen in quite a long time, but but still I think it's a pretty terrible fold. He was right this time, but facing a small size like this in position, you're folding trips. Fair enough, I guess. Seeing that's gonna play into my strategy as we pick up ace jack again 2 hands later in the cutoff. I raise it up, both blinds call, so we're 3 ways to a very dry 10-6 deuce rainbow board. I see bet 25 and both players make the call. Turn's pretty ideal, it's an ace. When action checks to me, we're gonna go for value now, 75. Small blind gets out of the way, big blind. Same player from the last hand makes the call. Last card's a king. He thinks for a while, then checks. And against this guy, I know he's not looking to make a big call down. Not gonna put in another bet. Hopefully we're good. I check it back and we lose to ace queen suited, which didn't 3-bet pre-flop. So nice hand. We're still $300 away from even. And here comes the biggest hand of the night. It's a bomb pot. Had some struggles earlier, but maybe this can make up for it. We've got queen 10-10-3 in the small blind. The flops are jack 10-7 with 2 diamonds. I also have 2 diamonds and a set, as well as king 9 deuce rainbow, so just a gutter on that board. Action's gonna check all the way to the button. Wouldn't mind seeing a check back here, see some turns for free, but instead he pots it to 105. Not loving the situation, but I'm still gonna make the call, and the player in seat 7 is gonna put his whole stack in now, and it's $200, which is very lucky for me because if it was $210, the button could repot it. But instead, he's forced to just make the call. I call too, and the turns are pretty great. 7 up top gives us a full house, only losing to jacks and quads now on that board. And we turn a set down below, losing to just queen jack or kings now there. So far, it's a dry side pot. I check it over to him and he pots 705. Now there is a nightmare situation where he has queen jack jack. Absolutely something to worry about. But this guy is not a nit, so I don't think that's too likely. We should be good on at least one of the boards so far. He's playing about 2K total going into the turn, and yeah man, you just gotta put it in. Hope we're not getting scooped. He seems like he doesn't love it, which I do love to see. Before sticking in the call, first river doesn't change much. Second river, the flush comes in down there. I'm expecting to get half the pot, but I get the whole thing, guys. Button had jack 9-8-7, so a worse full house up top. He actually flopped the nut straight, so really unlucky for him. And he turned a wrap down below, which completely missed. The other player, the short stack who had 200, I just remember 2 of his cards, ace queen of diamonds, so he had a big draw up top at least. But nobody can beat pocket 10s on either board. A couple of dream turns, and take a look at the stack now. $6,000. Did you get even? Nah, I got rich. Let's keep going. How about the Cowboys in the straddle? Now the boys did betray me earlier, but hopefully they can make up for it in this hand. The small blind raises to 30. I make it 100. He makes the call. Flop is 7-6-3 with a flush draw. Kind of concerning, right? He checks. I down bet $60 and he makes the call. The turn, well, it's the king of clubs.
People keep asking if I'm back, and I haven't really had an answer. But now, yeah, I'm thinking I'm back.
Not concerning at all. We only lose to 4-5 and we beat literally everything else. He checks, I go 175, and now he puts in a raise to 450. Music to my ears. He's got a lot of money left behind, still 1,300. So what do you do here? I was still pretty amped up about the bomb pot and I was just ready to go. So I jam. It's a big jam and I think it's a mistake. I was basically hoping that he either had a set that's smaller than mine, of course, or 2 pair like 7-6 suited. Those hands would call, but when I do this, I think everything else folds. Even if he has a big draw, he just doesn't have the odds to call. I should have played this a little bit more firmly, a little less scared, and just called, lived with the river, and called whatever bet he made then. But as played, I did jam, rooting very hard for a call, but eventually he makes a great decision to lay down whatever he had. That hand puts the stack all the way up to 6.6K. I'm in for 3.8, by the way. Don't love being being in for that much, but when this happens, who cares? And the table actually breaks shortly after. Mostly of my own doing, I guess. Still, I'm not ready for this heater to die. We move to a different table and pick up 5-4 of clubs in the small blind. Hijack limps, I raise it up to 25, the big blind and the limper call, and we flop a huge combo draw. It's king 7-6 with 2 clubs. I bet $35. If somebody raises, I'm gonna re-raise and be okay with getting it in against whatever at this point, right? Instead, big blind folds, the limper calls, and the turn's the 9 of hearts. Definitely not a card I wanted to see. I think check calling on this card makes a lot of sense, but I just have so much equity in just 5 high that I want to keep betting, right? So I bet $125, and well, it's a nightmare situation. He jams about 450. Now, if my straight outs are live, meaning if an 8 or a 3 gives me the best hand, then I think I have just enough equity to call with the money that I've bet and what's in the pot already. But that might not be the case. If he has something like 9-8 of clubs, it makes sense for him to do this. Also, if he turned a straight, it makes sense for him to do this. Any 2 pairs would do this as well, but we have a lot of equity against those. But I'm just worried about him having a straight or some kind of straight blocker that takes away a lot of my outs. So after thinking about that for a while, I make the fold, and he's nice enough to show us 8-5. So he did turn the straight, and I did not have the equity to call. Sucks to lose one, but definitely can't complain on this night. I rack up a little bit after this hand, cashing out a win of over $2,700. Awesome comeback. Let's talk about it, and let's talk about 2025.
Well, there you have it. Pretty sick session last night. I mean, going from stuck piles to up piles, that is probably the best feeling in all of poker. Really glad I stuck with it last night. And yeah, man, it's an ambitious goal that I've set for myself, 200K in a year. But, you know, if you can believe, you can achieve, and I think it's very possible. I need to get back out of 2.5 though, for sure. So come this time next month, I hope to be more of a regular in the bigger game, which is 5, 10, 25 here. And I think you can make, you know, obviously a lot more money at bigger stakes. So that's the goal. I'm going to vlog every step of the journey along to it, and I hope to see you there on the KDog Poker Vlog.